Michael grandkids call me Rude. Welcome to Highlands, North Carolina. That's right. I am at about 4,100 feet above sea level right here. Got some trucks coming by up the mountain this morning, so you may hear some of that going on. If you remember Saturday morning, I said, hey, I'm finishing this show, and Carol and I are driving to meet some friends for dinner. Well, we just stayed with them. So, dear friends of ours who've been friends for many years. They have a place, or they don't have a place. They rented a house just for some family and friends, and through some change, they called and said, hey, come and have dinner with us. And so here we are. Highlands is on the South Carolina, North Georgia line, cross out of North Carolina, but it's the highest. Let's see, I've got it right here. It's still in North Carolina, but it's the highest. And these facts are, this town's elevation is 4,100. So I'm literally probably closer to about 4,600. We're 500 or 600 feet up above the town. I got to tell you this, there are 47 different mountain peaks here. So if you want to, I always talk about that 7-layer salad. There are 47 different hundred, and I got some sunshine blowing in here this morning, so it's always going to change. I'm outside on this porch. I'm going to show you a video of where I am in just a minute. And yesterday I shot some scenes around the area, and I put it all together last night late, so I'll give you an idea here. So don't worry about the construction trucks. It's Monday morning. They're building in here, so if you hear some rumbling in the background, it's not the rumbling we came into, which was thunder and lightning and raining. We couldn't even see out from the porch, and now I can see trees. Not mountains, but trees. Anyway, it's fun to be here. Let me back this microphone off just a little bit. It may be a little hot, so you can adjust accordingly. And I can't hear the music this morning because of the way this thing is set up. Let's see if I can, if I hit this button right here. Hold on, no, I'm not smart enough to do that. That's sad when I'm not, but I live at 5,200 above sea level, so there you go. So, there are 47 different peaks here in the Highlands area. That's 4,000 foot or above. And there's even some that go over 5,000 feet. Of course, the highest one on the Appalachian Mountains is Mount Mitchell, and it's 6,110 or something like that, maybe a little. It depends on the humidity. Some days it goes up a few inches, down a few inches, and it depends on how many people are walking on the top of the mountain, too. Just pressing it down. I think I just made that part up. Hey, welcome to the show this morning. Let me say hi to some of you. There are a bunch of you piling on here, and pile is a good word. I've learned that if you don't pile the garbage in a nice spot and put it inside a lockbox with a bear lock, the bear comes by at night and says, thank you very much for those scraps. And that's always kind of fun. And if you can see, I'm turning right now. That sun is kind of hot. So do not adjust your Technicolor set on your phone. I think it's working well. I've got a little setup here. There's wires. There's the edge of my computer. There's all this laid out. And I'm going to move my face in just a minute like this. right over there like that, come to you from this side of the screen today, so you're not hampered by my drawing on this side. I've had to set this up portably. Carried all this in my briefcase, and so just giving you a little mountain run here today. And I'm going to show you some videos in just a minute of where I was, and a little history that I found yesterday in the middle of the street that I thought was fantastic. There's some marvelous places here. This town was built I think you're going to go back as far as, look on my sheet here, I think he goes back as far as 1875. A guy named Samuel Kelsey and Clinton Hutchinson. They were a couple Southerners who were anxious to escape the summer heat, and the altitude and the climate offered it. And here's what they mean by that. The average temperature here for the month of July is 77 degrees. Now think about that. It's been 94 in Charlotte, so I'm 77 degrees here. And this morning is probably, it's probably in the 70s. Catch a little cloud cover right now. You can see that light kind of soften up a little bit. We, Carol and I and our friends, David and Joyce, popped around a couple art shows yesterday, crafts and art shows, and we went to some antique shows, and I talked to some artists. I talked to some people about antiques, and talked to some old people who were antiques, me included. So, but I want to share a little bit of this scene. There's lots of hiking trails here. I'm not hiking today. They're out for a walk right now, and so I'm here visiting with you guys for a little bit. But I want to encourage you today in what you're doing with your art, because after talking with some artists yesterday off in Sapphire Valley, which is just about 19 miles from here, we went back. It was their Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday art show. Pop-up tents and artists and vans and campers, and talked to a couple artists in there. There was a lot of fabric. There was jewelry. There was a lot of pottery ware, and it had rained so hard the day before that the field was like walking on a sponge. But they had hung out, and I talked to two artists in particular, a watercolor artist, spent some time with, who really, if flowers and birds were her topic, and she had some green paint that I said, you gotta love green. Is this thing working correctly? Let's see here. I said, you gotta love green, and if you don't love green, then I'm going to be surprised, because everything has these beautiful leaves in green. And I said, can you tell me just what the green is just like that? And she said, it's Russian St. Petersburg. And I'm going like, okay, I'm loving it. It's beautiful. And she really likes her watercolors strong, but she didn't sell any originals. And I asked her about that, and she kind of held on to them. And I thought that was kind of interesting. She had all prints, and her prints were good. She's partnered with a company that prints all of her originals onto watercolor paper. And so you see this laid out here. I have some Highland notes. There are, I think there's, let's see, 200 springs within the city limits. Those are not bad springs. So there's the Horse Pasture National River is here, or Horse Pasture National Wild and Scenic River is here. I don't know if you ever watched the old movie Last of the Mohicans, but some of that water that was rolling over those big rough rocks is the Horse Pasture River. You know, okay, a little personal note here. I received that original script from Michael Mann, and got to do some scouting on that movie when we still lived in Asheville in the late 80s. And so we scouted the Horse Pasture River. We scouted Chimney Rock. Some of that was shot there. We scouted Dalton Park up on the Blue Ridge Parkway, where the big fight scene was in that canyon. So it was really fun to be a part of that. So when I get out like this and see the mountains, and look, my kids have been in Colorado this summer, and my grandkids, and I'll tell you something about Colorado. Those mountains are majestic and beautiful, but there's something about the Appalachians and the Southern Appalachian and the Black Mountains and the Blue Ridge that just sort of embrace you. It's kind of like getting a hug in a nice coat, and I love that very much. Anyway, fly fishing is here. Apparently there's 500 miles of fishing streams here. Good news. Bad news is there's only 2 fish And so it's a lot of walking to catch a fish, but I didn't do too well here. And in fact, I didn't even bring my fly rod up this time. So let me show you a little. Let me show you a little highland scene, and then we'll get into painting something, just to set your taste for this a little bit. Okay. So we went out yesterday, and I shot something that doesn't have anything to do with painting art, but it has everything to do with design and art, and it could be one of my favorite airplanes of all. It's a DC-3. Here it is right here, and it's a miniature, and it took a lot of willpower not to just to say. This is the Moccasin War from Georgia, laid siege to the Highlands near here in 1885 to free arrested men who were in peaceful without a threat and a prayer. With a threat and a prayer. All right, there you go. Yesterday afternoon, and Yaya doing the splits behind the waterfalls. We thought that would be a fun little thing. I'll shoot those falls for you guys, since there's about, I don't know how many hundreds of waterfalls around here. And didn't you love the sign that said there was a siege on the town because of the moonshiners had been locked up in jail, and so the town, some of the people in the town went to siege the town and turn the moonshiners loose, because, hey, come on, it's part of the business, and we need those people. What are we going to do with all this corn? How do you get that corn out of that bottom across the river? You drink it out. That's how you get it out. And so the whole concept was real simple. It was there was a threat. And then there was a prayer. And that's why I showed you the church there. That church is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, Jason, I have a picture of that I'll forward to you that I shot. It's not in video form. It's just absolutely great. All right. So, hey, love to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for being here. Great place. I'd love to give you a little travel tour tip as we're out and about. Catherine Brousseau, Denise Albright, Jason, Karen Binder, Kim Sheets, Deborah Talber, Jennifer Yentz that have just returned home from Boone. Love it, love it. Lori Stanley, Handelmeyer Henderson, Laura Abbott, Teresa Emmerich. Good morning, Miss Carla. Thanks for being on the show. And I saw lots of, had dinner the other night at a little restaurant called Lakeside. Absolutely pristine, pristine. And yep, lots of ducks on that lake, and I'm still not painting them. That's your job. Nancy Catlett, Chris Whitaker, thanks for being on the show. Fern Skelly, Gene Anthalzer, Terry Tardy, welcome, welcome. And there's Jethro Bodine back from the deep south, man. If it gets too hot down there, you can always drive up here. June Jones, welcome. I hear the compressors and the nailers starting up. I don't know if you can catch all that sound, but don't worry about it. Here we go. Donna Buckley, thanks for being on the show. And Ruth Gentgate, thank you for being here. There's Steve Catlett. Welcome. Jethro says he's about 12 feet above sea level. Yeah, I remember my days living in Florida, and there was out from our house where we lived, just out from the Atlantic. We were about 3/4 of a mile from the ocean, but there was a telephone pole that had a marker that had been stapled onto it around it, and it says high water mark. I'm thinking, wow, that's 8 feet above our house. So. Um, Kyle Dixon, welcome to the show, you crazy man. And on the funny farm, Lynn Burr, welcome. Pat Brooks, always a pleasure to have you. Valerie Prezi, Tamberly Marie, Pat Lightbody, good grief. Barbara Mayer, Lynn Swain Brown, thanks for being there. Got a note yesterday from Lee Pactus, who used to join us on this show all the time. He said some health issues. John Robert Small, it is Monday already. Blessings. Bert Crone. All right. Let's move through here and let's get to painting something. So what did I paint since I've been here? Well, Barbara Wilkinson from Ontario, thank you. You're probably a little, and Sue Kane, morning to you. Gretchen Hay. All right, Linda Linhart, Sheila Nelson. Golly, thanks for being on the show this morning. It's Monday morning, and I moved my head. Did you see this? I went from over here, whoa, to over here. I can do that. And so that opens up this page to paint a little more. Got some bright sun coming in, so I'm going to try and scoot this back just a little. It's going to be a tad hot for you, but it is what it is. All right. I went in the restaurant, the Lakeside. Our friends took us in there. Beautiful little place, and tiny, tiny little place, probably seated 30 people maybe. And just the food was just brilliant. And the walls were filled with what I would call whimsical art, painted on huge canvases. And I'm sorry I didn't take a picture of the bear. Absolutely phenomenal. Just he was laying on his back with his feet up like this, and there was a little bird resting on his foot, and it was just the most jovial thing. And it was 4 by 5 feet. And I promise you, I didn't have the money, nor did I have the wall space, but I loved it. And so it made us talk about bear stories and putting our trash in lock boxes here. And anyway, so the lady who welcomed us so well, painting on Kilimanjaro paper here this morning, there it is right there. And that leads me to this, the reason I've got to get some paper, that leads me to these pages in between. You know, I always talk about these pages in between. This is the 10 by 5.5. In between each piece of watercolor paper, the 140-pound, 100% rag cotton paper is a little fly sheet, and it's probably 100-pound, but it's coated with a vellum. It's very slick, and I love doodling on it. It's just become my favorite paper to doodle on. It also, if you leave it in the book and you leave paintings in there, it's a good support sheet for that. So. But basically, I thought, well, we finished the meal, and the lady had come back several times just to ask how we were doing, and she knew we were visiting, and so they were all making a good impression, or trying to, on us. And you know, we're a difficult crowd because Carol and I talk a lot, and I know you're surprised by that, right? And So I sit down and I doodled. I took out my little, where is it? I took out my little notebook. I carry my Altoids with me all the time, and I carry a pen and I also carry a water brush, regardless of where I am. And then I carry this little notebook. This is from my dear friend Zan Hood at Buffalo Jackson. And it has my list on here of things to do, and it's all my little notebook with all my lists. I got to get a new filler. And inside the flap here, I carry watercolor paper. And so I slid out a nice piece of watercolor paper like so. And I sat at the table, and that's what I do. And I doodled her a honeybee that I really liked, and it said, I'll be coming back here for dinner, or this be a great place for dinner, I think is what it said. And so she said, I see you looking at all this art. You're probably going to take a piece of that art home. And I said, I would maybe love to do that, but I've got art in my pocket because I always got to figure out what to do with, And she was pretty funny, and so I gave it to her. And anyway, it's always fun to leave a painting. And I left a couple of roosters yesterday for some calling cards for folks. So I hope you're always doodling. Hope you're doing it. Now let me tell you, as I paint this, I saw a couple of lobsters that some of you had painted on your on the Roost Crew, and because I painted that big lobster, I'm working on one. Remember, I'm going to record those paintings. I'm going to do those things. They're going to be roughly 4 by 8 feet on canvas, and I'm going to figure out how to do them with a little bit of house paint and some watercolor too. I'm going to throw in there some of my liquid watercolor just to buzz in there. No pun intended. I'm going to paint a giant lobster from my office, my consulting office, where I keep what we call the lab. So it's going to be the Lob Lab and the B Lab and the Roo Lab. And so anyway, so what I did was I just put this little bee together, and once again I just set my cup down from the table, and I painted a little circle around it, which I thought would be kind of fun. And I did that with my brush and some tea. Just dip in the tea there and just sweep around it like this. And let it splatter just as it goes about, and then just kind of let it sit there for just a second until it gets that ring. And so you actually use your tea, and then you're going to say, is he going to drink that tea later? Well, of course he is. Okay, so there's that little ring. And it's not that I try to paint fast. It's just that I enjoy that part of my style. Remember Saturday I was telling you, this has still been on my brain, that I'd gone back through a lot of never leave your table at the door, drop it on the table. Part of what I had come up with in my own world was I felt like I had tightened up over the last 2 years. Just kind of, maybe it's because I'm doing some instruction. Maybe it's because I think I'm going to have to find a smaller brush in here. Maybe it's because I am taking more time and not being as carefree. And so basically, I just wanted to go back and just do some messy paintings and feel like that was going to give me a little bit of looseness back into my paint. I'm painting on a piece of vellum paper right now. It's the flyleaf. But I'm going to show you something that I did on this painting the other night at the table that gave it a real touch on this little honeybee. See, he's coming together already. Notice I didn't make his stripes even. I let them tip around, and that creates a little bit of a spin in the body. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab a little bit of just pumpkin orange. Nothing pre-mixed, just grab it right out, and I'm going to drop that right in there like that and just put a little of that. I'm also going to grab, I don't have any brown, so I've taken a little bit of green up here, and I've taken a little bit of red, and I've dropped them together like this, and I made myself a little touch of brown, and I'm going to put some brown in there. And then I might just come in here and get some lamp black, and come in here. I'm going to have to dry that just a little bit. Let me grab a little piece of paper towel here. Go for just a little piece of paper towel like that right there, and just kind of dry this off just a little bit right there. And I'm going to come back. Got it a little too wet. Come back in here and come in with this yellow. This is what you have to do when you paint out and about plein air, or outside, as we call it in the South. And so then I'm going to come in here and just touch up. This brush is acting up on me today because it's been stuffed down in my briefcase while I've been traveling. I didn't pack it really well. Catch a little black in here and just a little here. I'm just going to let some of this black run into the yellow. And then I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and I'm going to come back to it in a little bit and finish it up. All right, so there we go. There's a little bit of a bee coming together right there. And then I'll come in with just a touch of yellow and just do a little splatter around like this right there. And then I'm going to come back to him. So I'm going to leave him alone, and we'll go over. But I painted it at the table on a little piece of paper about this big, set my glass down on it, and did a little trace around it. I think I didn't have coffee that night at dinner, but I had my Altoid can with me, this one here, which has a little bit of mummy brown in there. It's an ugly color, but it's perfect for a little bit of the shadows on the bees. So I don't know what you're painting, but here's what I bumped into. I found this lady who, she was very concerned. And so this is not a judgment call on her or any of the artists that I bump into, but I throw it out because I learn from that when I talk to other artists. I learn her colors. I learn what she likes. She was very concerned about her originals, but this was my original. I'm going like, yeah. She goes, but I have to keep my originals. I'm going like, you do? How come? She goes, well, they're my originals. And I said, oh, so they're a part of you? Yes. I said, okay. So do you keep everything as a part of you, or do you give it out to other people? And those are questions that you don't ask at art shows, I guess, but I do. Because, we have this sort of mentality of withhold nothing. And so and we were talking with our friends yesterday when we went through this one place as antiques, and Carol and I are really blunt. We're saying we're here to buy what dead people have left. And usually that's when all your stuff becomes estate sales, and you think all this stuff that was so dear to me is going to wind up in my estate sale. So what if I started blessing with people with some of it now? And yeah, and I have tchotchkes and zerskis and zerkies and whatever you call all this stuff, chattels and if, ands, or buts and things that I collect and pile up on my papers. But sometimes you just have to go, I'm going to put a bunch of this in a box. I'm going to dump it on the table and say, take whatever you want. And I did that last week at a business meeting that I was at. And people grabbed stuff and took it and said, oh, I love this on my desk for a season. And so I love that concept. So, I always sell original paintings. This is going to be the first time since I did little cards that I've even offered prints. And I'm going to offer some prints. And I'm going to do that in such a way that I think people will enjoy them. I'm going to offer them during the auction. Pat had given me the idea and said, this would really be good so everybody could kind of be a part if they were able to get a piece of something you were auctioning off. And even if it's a print and you have the limited ability to print 3 or 4 cards, keep one, put it on your fridge, take one, give it to a friend next door, take them a casserole over, and this will be the last time I ever, it's the next last time I ever say casserole, because I'm not a real casserole friend, and don't be giving me letters or casserole recipes. I even brought my skillet up here, so we've been cooking. I did Julia Child's French omelets the other morning here, so my skillet travels with me, and I don't just travel with my art drawing papers. I travel with my with my cooking skillet also. And so, sorry, I'm bumping the table here, but part of this is that she had all these prints there, and so people come in and they look at it and they turn it over and they go, oh, it's a print. And I find that some people who have discretionary income, who live in the Highlands, want to have an original piece of art. And I think that's a pretty interesting thing to have and hold on to. So part of that for me was just to encourage people to do something with their originals. And don't worry about the fact that it's getting away from you. If it's honored and held true by someone else, let it go. And we had a little discussion last night at dinner, and we were talking about gifts. And I said, if I've learned anything from Carol, and certainly true with friends that were with this weekend, she's a giver of gifts, and my wife is a giver of gifts, and they give gifts that they love. And we were talking about just that's the best way to give a gift. If you really love something, you buy something that you would like. And so I had this business meeting where I had to go offer these folks some little gift that would remind them of the meeting. And I didn't just give them a plaque or a little button. I gave them something that I would have loved to have had and used for a while. and it worked out really well. So I asked this lady about her art yesterday, and I said, my point is, do you ever sell originals? And she said, not really. I just keep them so I can take them and have them reproduced into prints. I said, so what if somebody, I'm not the guy, but what if somebody came along and said, I love these Oconee Bell flowers that you did with the Petersburg, Russian Petersburg green. Could I buy the original of that? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, well, do you have it hung in your home? No, I have it stored in my home. And I'm going like, okay, so I'm struggling now. It's yours and you keep it, but it's stored and no one can see it. So I am encouraging you today, the folks of you who are on this show, to say, if you do good art, learn how to share it so that other people can take advantage of it in some way. Whether you sell it, look, you're not going to make a living as an artist. You're going to do well, but it's a rare nut to really lock onto something and let your art be that. But that's not the point of art. The point of art is expressing yourself in love and life and embracing other people for community because they appreciate it. And so for me, I think what happens is too many people hold on to things until, wait for it, they have the estate sale. You with me? Okay. So part of that is you get to the point where there's an estate sale, and you go, yikes, what just happened? You know, that's the thing that we're looking for today. So I do believe that there's a point where you have to share some of the things that you have. You guys are an amazing community because you do that all the time. You do it with your art, you do it with your cards, you do it with notes, with thoughts, with prayers. You stay in touch with each other. Look, all you have to do is read the comments on this site alone when we're streaming, and you see that you're talking about this, or, ooh, sorry, I didn't know you were having that. And even as far away as you folks in Ontario or Sue, who's visiting right now from Australia, you're able to reach out and you're able to say, hey, I can help you with that. I'll send you this. Is there anything better than sharing like that? No. And I don't think there is. I think you start to share your art. I think you start to share your life. And I think that's part of what makes this world a better place. That's what keeps you from anxiety over all the news, is friends and visits and better recipes and cooking and laughing and sharing. And so that was one lady that I met with yesterday at the arts and crafts thing. And I encouraged her. I said, sometime just bring some of your originals and sell them. You might go home with people enjoying your art more. You're going to go home with a little more cash in your pocket because the people who come to this art show can afford your originals. And not everybody wants a print. They want the original. And so now that I've said that, coming up on August 19th, we're going to do that auction, and it's for David's Table. We're going to help these kids who are less fortunate than us get to camp, and their families also. They're in wheelchairs, and most of their have to come with attendants. And so on the night of Friday the 19th. And I'll come back on live on Wednesday and just give you a little idea of how some of this is going to work again. You've done these auctions with me before, but all the funds from this one are going to go to David's Table. We're going to raise a little money for scholarship for those guys. And the fun part is I'm actually going to be down there in September, and I'm going to go live from the camp with some of those kids on the show. So you're going to see results from you helping to send some of them to camp. It's going to be fun. All right, so what I'm painting on is Kilimanjaro, 140 pound. It's 10.5 by 5.5. I love it for this reason. 5.5 lets me chop it off. It'll drop in a 5x7 frame very easily. It's great little fun piece of art to have, to leave. And so we were at a mountain home. We are now in the Highlands with our friends, but we were at a mountain home just last weekend. Remember on the lake where I shot you that scene? And basically, we know the friend who has that home, and he only rents to friends and family. And he said, hey, tell you what I'll do. I'd love for y'all to come and be a part of this, and here's my rate. And so we went and took it. But at the same time, one of the things that we did was I left them a painting to hang in their kitchen there. And so it was a little rooster that it said, we came, we saw, we made a little splash. And so you need to get creative with what you do and figure out every time I leave a painting like that. Every time I leave one of those small cards, like the little bee on the table, okay, it's a gift, but guess what else it is? As an artist, thinking like an artist, it's marketing for me. It's people who say, hey, I love that. I want to find out who that guy is. Yesterday, I met a young lady who goes to Georgia Tech. She's in design, furniture design, architecture. She said, I want to be a watercolor artist. And I said, here's my card. You call. I know a community that would embrace you. And she showed me some of her sketches, and I went, girl, you are talented. It's just amazing what people are out there, and they don't know how to approach people and sort of sell themselves. And that's kind of what I do this. Sorry about the shadows. It's just like sun streaming in here on this Monday morning, which I will take. Thought it was supposed to rain all day yesterday, and lo and behold, it allowed us to get through the entire day. Next person I bumped into was a young girl who was working with her father, and I thought that was pretty impressive. And they were making charcuterie boards. So I don't know what you're painting. If you're painting along, you're painting a little rooster this morning. If you're getting ready to paint, if you're just sitting and hearing the stories, I wanted you to know that some of you are already showing your art. You're already putting it in shows. You're doing things like that. I'm not. I'm not saying that that's what you have to do to think next, but share your art somewhere.
Hey, people.
Hey, people.
I'm coming to show my bracelet.
Oh, you are? Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Let me switch to a bigger camera here. All right, here we go. Yaya has come. They just saw your video of you doing the split. Yaya has arrived in person. So
yes,
she said
she's not a
that
myth, but she is a legend.
You got to be careful because I can't hear you. Well, I'll move the microphone for you in just a minute, and I can.
Here.
So that's fine. I'm going to move this picture a little larger. Just hold on for a second here. Here, let's just go to a page. Hang on, folks. Yaya's here. She and our friend Joyce, we all went through the art and craft show differently yesterday, and then of course they got back in the car and said,
we got best
of show. So I'm going to show you what she found, handmade by an artisan there, and it was quite a story. So here it is, right here. Let me just.
Where's your camera?
The camera is right there. Yeah. So there's the bracelet coming in. You're going to be. Let's see. You're in the sun. Let's see if we can pull it down this way. There we go. Look right there. Oh yeah. Look.
Okay. It's beaded. She works on a loom. It's sterling wire. She gets her beads from Japan because they are all natural colored glass. And they're tiny little beads, and she makes these patterns on a loom.
So
and I mix it with my sterling and my turquoise.
Is it a wire loom?
It is a wire loom.
Oh, come on!
So it's looks
you
like
didn't
a little.
See, she had none of that there,
yeah,
right?
She did.
Oh,
she had
shucks!
And
Missed that.
Yeah, she was a real interesting lady, older lady in her 80s, still doing this, making her stuff. She couldn't hear a thing, but
did you know why she got into beading? Was it anything to do with the American Indian or
no? She didn't say why, but anyway,
Native Americans
I just thought it was lovely and very painstaking.
Well, let's see the clasp.
Here's the clasp sterling.
Here, do this. Come right here and stick it under this. Come right here. Come right there and stick it under this, right over my painting, right there on this.
Oh, there's my.
Wait. Hold.
There's
down a little. Go a little lower.
There's the clasp there.
Hold on, I'll focus on it. Let's see if I can focus on it.
There's the clasp, but then it's got this beautiful pattern.
Hold still. No, you're not holding still. All right, hold still right there. Hold still right there, and I'll focus on that. Ah, there we go. Hold still.
No, there we go.
So all these little colors are individual beads that are on wires in a loom.
On a loom, a lap loom.
So this would be like weaving a carpet.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it pretty?
Yeah.
She was a sweet lady. Anyway.
And I'm not asking, but I'm sure you paid $3 for that. But it was
my friend Joyce treated me to that.
Oh my gosh! And what am I just talking about this morning?
Talk about the most generous.
Talking
people
about
in the world.
I'm talking about hospitality and generosity, and so here.
Bye.
Thank you, Yaya.
See ya.
What a bracelet! Chris Whitaker wants one. What a bracelet! Beautiful story.
I'll have to have her card. I can send it.
Hey, we'll post her card if you want. She's an interesting lady. Both of them drove down the road talking about this lady, and we were just talking about the generosity of art. And how amazing it is when you let people have your art or give your art away, and then that leads to you selling art. Look, I don't want you to give all your art away. I want you to sell some art. I want you to sell art so that all your art supplies from now on are free. How fun is that? Come on. And then what happens if you make enough money, as Pat and I often laugh about noodle doodle fiddle piddle? What if we could take our spouse out for a hot dog? There's nothing wrong with that. A worker is worth his wages. Look it up. It's in the Bible. That's truth. Okay? So for me, I think that the part of this for me is to surprise people with it. So here I'm walking through the art craft show yesterday. Carol and Joyce are over on the other side. They're talking to this lady, and I walked by her booth and saw these bracelets, and I honestly thought they were from the native North American Indians. I thought that she had got a contact with some folks, and we're in North Carolina. We're not that far from Cherokee, where there's some great reservations, and it's great to help those folks. I had no idea that these were. Let me kill this page right here. Hold on one second here. Rats. Hold on one second. Quit mail. I didn't quit the mail on my computer this morning, and it's telling me that I'm doing something wrong. There it is. Okay. So I walked over and I meet this young girl. She's in her 20s, and she's sitting there with her father, and they're making these charcuterie boards. And in the process of them making these boards, I said, how are sales? I mean, how are you doing here? Because I want artists to make it out here. And so I'm just that old guy who comes in, and my age gives me the ability to kind of walk in and say, hey. And she said, let me see, we're struggling right now a little bit, and it's slow, and the rain's held some people off. And I said, well, you do great work. And what is this rolling pin made out of? It looks like chestnut, but no, it's not oak enough to look like chestnut. And he said, oh, it's red elm. And I went, stop. I've never seen any red elm. Where did you get it? And he talks about finding this lumber, and he goes to look for it. And his daughter and he cut the wood, laminate it up, and make these charcuterie boards with these cool metal handles. And I said, do you sell these online? And she said, no. And I said, why not? Your audience would be so much bigger. And there's people out there who love wood and who would love to connect with you guys and be a part of this. And I said, so I look down below the shelves and I go, take it from an old man. There's a community online waiting to hear about what you do. And she goes, I said, you're young. You got an iPhone, you a smartphone. You know how to do Instagram. She says, I'm not good at it. And then I realized that she went back to some of the original things that I've talked to you guys about for the last 2.5 years. Red elm, Ned's favorite food woodworking. Oh my gosh, see there, Sheila? I had no idea. I didn't know about red elm, and I grew up in the woods. I grew up with every tree you can imagine, and I didn't know about red elm. I knew about red oak, I knew about red bud, I knew about all those trees, but I didn't know about red elm. So when I was talking to her, I realized that I saw an overlapping of my community, your community here, you guys, and what it is. And here's what it is. Sometimes you're just afraid to talk about yourself. And I'm not talking about building up long stories and traveling and being a promoter of yourself. I've had to do that over the years through storytelling and the businesses I've had as being a concert person and all that. But at some point in time, you have to talk about your art and engage people who are interested in your art and say, you know what? Uh, I like what I do, and I do it this way. And I said, tell me a story about how you put this board together. And this guy starts, and he says, first, I get the wood, and then I saw the wood, and I square it up, and then I laminate it all together, and then I have to sand it all down. Ned would know this very much. Any woodworker would know this. And he says it takes hours and hours and hours, all the clamping and the gluing and the cleaning up, and then to saw it in the right place, and to drill it, and then to finish it and hand sand it again. And he said, so people wonder why some of the boards are, $150 to $400. Here's why. And they think that's a lot of money. And he goes, not really. It's less than $20 an hour when you look at all the hours I have in it. And so I said, but wait, I'm interested in that story, and I believe other people would be. So I drew her a little rooster on one of my little cards, and I said, here's my card, and here's my phone number, and I want you to call me, and I would like to help you and your dad create a video. It's on me. First one's on me because I'll teach you how to do it. To shoot a little story video to put out on your Instagram page. 2 minutes. a minute and a half, a minute for Instagram, and then a minute on a Facebook page, and use it and put it out there on YouTube and say, this is how we make this. And then show me one with all the ham and the crackers and the cheese and the grapes and the fruit and the Gruyere. And I want to see all of it put together as a charcuterie, the different kinds of salamis. I want to see it finished. I want to see it go from scratch to finish in time lapse. And she goes, wow, people would watch that. And I'm going like, yes. So some of you think about your art. Look, you guys humor me in a great way, and I'm blessed for that. You put up with my videos and where I'm walking and what I'm talking about. In that one video, if you saw me pointing, I was pointing up at the roof. I was looking like this. I was going like, oh yeah, da 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 da. That was all slate. And there's nothing more beautiful than a gray slate roof on something. And that Edwards Inn is just, it is a glorious building that harks back to the 20s. It's just gorgeous and manicured, and the inside was even more impressive. And they had events going on, so I didn't want to go in there and just shoot video of everybody. But my point is, and I'm going to truncate the show here this morning and go fix up some wonderful breakfast with my friends, is that I want you to stay creative, and I want you to stay giving, and I want you to honor your own self by putting together your little story if you haven't. Now, this sounds a lot like what I do on Patreon, because I'm going to push those people more and more and more. And we're going to dig into in this next season in the fall on exactly how to do that for some of you in a little better way. How to market what you do. How, when you're out doing one of these pop-up shows, you shoot some photos and where to put them and who to talk to and how to network it a little bit. I think you need to get your words out a little bit. You need to learn to talk a little bit, not so, look what I've done, but this is what I'm doing, and isn't it fascinating? You see the difference in the transition? And that's what we'll talk to a little bit more in Patreon, about how you can sell that. Not sell it to be rich, sell it to enhance your life, and sell it to hear someone else's story and let what they do. There is not an artist that I meet with that I don't ask them about. How did you get into this? Why did you get into this? And where do you think this is going to go? And I ask myself that with my own art. And it doesn't matter if it takes off. I don't care if it's on national or international. I want to create a community of people who go, I get this, and this is what it's for. Does it have a purpose? Yeah, sell it. It's going to be for David's table. It's going to be for Carol and I. We get to come and take trips like this and eat at a restaurant that I normally wouldn't get to because I sold some art last week in town. Well, I sold it online, but delivered it in town. My point is, that's helpful to me. And so it can be helpful to you too, because you are a community who's done this. So find something to paint today. You got a few more minutes here in this morning. It's Monday morning. If you don't have to go anywhere, make another cup of tea. I'm going to go back into town and dig up a few more things to look at. Um, I will probably take a few minutes in the morning and just do a little piece on Good News Rue. And so I'll pick up in Matthew. I don't have my journal with me because it didn't make it in my bag, I noticed. But I'll come on and pop on to that anyway, and we'll pick up. But I want you to think about a piece of art that you're really getting good at. And then I want you to go back and create kind of what you used to make it. This is really going to come aware again as I'm going to push this in Patreon. So whether it's your little honeybee that you're coming on, or a rooster, or one of those things that you do that you just love to paint. Denise, it's going to be your little dog. You do one, the dog and a bee in a teacup, that blows my mind. People want to know why. Why do you paint dogs? What's the connection? Why do you love them? Did you grow up loving them as a kid? And keep it short and sweet. Write a paragraph about it. And I promise you, your art will change when you realize why you're drawing what you draw. What does this lead to? It leads to your visual voice being stronger. I'm going to stay within a realm. My friends looked at some art last night. He goes, whoa, you painted a trout? You painting bees? You're painting this? I thought you were just a rooster painter. And I said, doesn't mean a rooster can't get around the rest of the farmyard sometimes and see what's going on. You see those daisies? Oh my gosh, those daisies were just mind-boggling. Okay, so here it is one more time. I'm going to roll it. It's the Highlands, and here's another look. This is the Moccasin War from Georgia, laid siege to the Highlands near here in 1885 to free arrested men who were ended peacefully without a threat and a prayer. With a threat and a prayer. So just wanted to say one last hit the road and grab your cup. Just take a quick sip. Whoever you're thinking about this morning, send them a note, send them a card. Love the fact that you guys hang on. Think about a little paragraph for you. Why you paint what you paint. And Miss Carla, I can't tell you why you paint peaches. That is beyond me, but I would love to know. So I want you to piddle with that. It's ducks or peaches, my friend. I love it. That's really great. Susie DeLay, thanks for jumping on the show. I don't think I saw you. Tammy Marie. Um, Patricia Hazel, just a little late. That's okay. You can play it over. And Ruth, I saw your note there that said, where do I post? Oh, no, you said, hey, we could send some work for David's Table auction. I think that would be great. However, this year, this short time span that we're doing, I literally am going to sell flowers that have been painted by the participants of David's Table itself. Some of these special young men and women have gotten together with their parents, their art teachers and friends, and they've helped them paint something. And so we're going to sell their paintings. I'm throwing in a few beads just for fun. And so we're going to let it be quick and to the point. And so you've got a piece that's painted by them. You'll see pictures of who they are, and then you'll probably see some of those at camp, those people at camp. So that's the whole point of the auction. August 19th. Be a part of that if you would, and let's do something good. And you're going to wind up with a great little piece that goes, and people are going to ask you, what is this? And they're going to be very abstract looking flowers. I've asked them all to paint flowers, and so some are going to be great, some are going to be not so great, some are going to, but they're all going to be perfect because they've been painted by the hands who need to be treated as real human beings, the folks of David's Table. And so it's a great ministry that I love partnering with, and so we're going to roll that out. So This isn't my new house. I'm out on the porch. And let me just show you here. Last thing, I'll finish with this, and you take it off, and I'm out of here. Here is. Let's see if I have. Thought I had the porch scene. Here it is, right here. Here's the porch. This. I'm sitting right. See that little candle thing? I'm sitting at that table right there. I shot this at about 8 o'clock when the sun was just coming up, and the hummingbirds have been humming because they don't know the words. And there is the trees looking off. I'm about 60 feet vertically above the next house down the hill. And so our friends latched onto this house at the top of the mountain. And there's where we'll have our next cup of tea, right there. Mm-hmm. Life's rough, huh? All right. Hey, we're blessed. And just remember it. So are you. When you can do art, you're blessed. Blessings to you. Take a sip of that tea, and I'll see you later. Wednesday, I'm going to break in on Wednesday evening and talk about the auction a little bit more, so be looking for that. Patreon folks, see some of you tomorrow on Good News Roo. I'm out of here like a herd of turtles. Bye.